What if someone struggling with consistency actually has so much more to do with black or white thinking than we realize? How might black or white thinking impact consistency? Well, let's look at it for what I believe it is. If somebody sees things in a very black or white way, they see things in one, an unhealthy way, but two, very extreme. Imagine you go to do something and say it's something that you've either never done before or have very little experience with. The influence that the black or white thinking dynamic has is basically communicating to you that, and let's say it for what it is, or what at least I see it as, black or white. Let's give the white the meaning that you have to be perfect. You have to have it all figured out. It's the clarity essence of, yes, when I approach this, even if I've never done it before, I've got to be really fucking good at it. Better yet, I've got to be perfect at it. The black side of it is that you're nothing at all. So you're either exceptional at something that you've either had very little experience to none at all with, and you have this belief that you have to be perfect. The belief of perfectionism is an actual thing in people. People believing that they have to be perfect at something. I don't believe in perfection. I believe in consistently doing something, talking about consistently doing something to the point where you get really fucking good at it, which requires a lot of reps, requires a lot of regular practice and activity. To get really good at something, you need to do something over and over again. That's just the reality of it. Somebody that sees things in a black or white way, they usually believe they have to be really fucking good at it right off the bat. And I will say that sometimes natural talent is there, and it is the exception. If you are really fucking good at something in the very early times of starting it, maybe you're just really fucking good at it and it's just natural for you. It comes natural for you. That's not the case for everybody. But quite honestly, the whole natural talent thing usually has to do more with very early on childhood conditioning in any given way. And so with that, understanding that somebody who struggles with consistency likely struggles with black or white thinking because the belief is, I need to be perfect at this thing right off the bat. We'll call that the white, because this is black or white. This or that. I have to be perfect at it, or I am nothing. So that becomes the thought process, the thinking dynamic. And because the I am nothing at all otherwise is so painful for the person to think, they don't see the middle ground. They don't see the gray area. They don't see, they struggle to step into this area because they don't see it. It doesn't exist for them. It's only black or white. So this gray area of, I can understand that I've never done this before, or I have very little experience with this, and if I continue to show up on a daily basis, even though I'm not that developed with it right now, over time I can develop the skill and become better at it. No, all they see is I'm either perfect at it in the very beginning, or I am nothing at all. And because this doesn't exist, being perfect at something right off the bat, right in the beginning, is, a non-reality. This is too painful to sit with, even though it's not accurate. So what do? They quit. Because the dynamic is just both painful and unrealistic. It's not realistic to have never tried something simultaneously being unnatural to it with any sense of talent It's painful to be in that dynamic, to think that you have to be exceptional at something right off the bat, even though you have absolutely no foundational understanding of it. But with that, understanding that if you are not excellent at it right off the bat, then you are nothing at all. So the entire dynamic is just avoided. So let me make this very clear. This is actually, because I just said the word that's very important to use to understand this whole dynamic. People with avoidant behaviors tend to be the same people that, I don't know if the right word to use is perpetuate this dynamic. I'll use it anyway. Or I guess I should say practice this dynamic. People that are avoidant to themselves. Any time that somebody is avoidant, that they display behaviors of avoidance, what they are avoiding is their internal universe. They're avoiding shit. I'm not perfect, even though I don't realize that it's not possible for me to be perfect at something that I've never even tried and have no foundational understanding in. Otherwise, I'm nothing at all. I just don't exist, and that's fucking painful. So I'm going to avoid even looking at that. And with that, struggle with consistency. Yeah. I'm going to avoid doing anything at all because the entire dynamic in and of itself is emotionally too painful for me to deal with. So I'm just not going to do it. You know, it's fascinating. I see all the time that people say that they, struggle with consistency. And imagine struggling, following through with doing something that you actually want to do. Like, it's wild. Like, somebody looks at it and it's like, but it's something that you actually want to do. Maybe somebody struggles to be consistent with their relationships. Well, what's the underlying issue? Maybe they believe that they or the other person has to be perfect because they see things in a black or white way. Oh, if I'm not perfect, then I can't be in a relationship. Newsflash, I guess to humble you, you're not perfect and nobody else is. Maybe they believe that the other person has to be perfect for them to even pursue a relationship with the other person. This is why you see people inconsistently in relationships. Because what they're avoiding is the reality that not only they, but also the other person is not perfect. It does not exist. You're not going to find somebody who lacks shit from childhood. Some people believe that they can. They're going to be searching for a very long time. Consistency doesn't just have to do with things that you do in life. It's also, relationships are things that you do in life, but just the understanding that if you struggle with consistency, it's likely because you also struggle with black or white thinking. It's likely because you see things in a very distorted way and believing that the second that you approach something that either you have very little experience with to none at all, you've never done it before, you have this belief that you have to be perfect. You have to be excellent at it. And it completely fucks up the dynamic because it makes you see things in a way that are actually not at all accurate. Because you're probably not going to be exceptional at something that you've never done before and have had no experience with. But to then otherwise believe that you're nothing at all as a result of that is unhealthy, and it's not accurate. It's a distorted way of seeing things. So to instead see things as the gray area between the black or white thinking, the gray area is, well, I've never done this before, and I would like to at least try it to see that if I do even like it, then I can maybe do something with it. But let's realize that there's no such thing as perfection. It's not like I'm actually nothing at all if I'm not good at it. It's just simply something that I want to try. Let me make this very clear that people that get caught up in these unhealthy loops of not doing things that they want to do is a result of the black or white thinking that was trained, deeply ingrained in them in childhood. And it's led them to be inconsistent in multiple areas of their lives. But essentially what they're avoiding is looking at themselves and realizing that they're not going to be perfect and they're not nothing at all if they can't do it right. Look at the gray area. Look at the area in between of I've never done this before. I've never had any experience with it, but I can try it. And if I like it, I can keep going with it. Giving yourself the permission to be gentle with yourself is really what it's all about. Realizing that the extremes are unhealthy. The black or white ways of thinking, the extremes are very unhealthy. Look at it from a standpoint of, let's try this and see what happens. If I like it, cool. If I don't, then I just move on and try something else. I'm not going to be perfect right off the bat. I don't have to try to have it all figured out and have it all together right off the bat. I can approach it from a standpoint of just being curious about the entire dynamic. And this goes for anything, regardless of whether it's, a hobby, something that you do, or relationships. Unbalanced, extreme way of looking at things, balanced, healthy way. That is the difference.